to her. I need her to tell us everything about her journey and the molecule. Take it off from there, OJ.
Okay, so I like speaking about our journey because it was our journey that made me start a side business. Okay, I usually say the business fell on my lap. I didn't go out looking for a business. I was looking for a solution to a problem. And that was when we got a diagnosis at 3 years and 8 months for my first child. And we got, I had noticed a lot of things. Of course, after her 18th month immunization, I began to notice a lot of things. But I was like, she wasn't speaking. She was really delayed. There were so many things wrong. She wasn't processing. You tell her something, for a child that age. I saw another friend of mine who had a child like 2 weeks. You guys are going to be seeing more of this. This is how my home is. Okay, so 2 weeks, that is like 2 months after her. And he had started doing a lot of things, so many things. And my child was not. Yes, I was asking my mom, experience. They say experience is the best teacher. And they'll tell you, our children grow at different rates. No, you don't need to worry yourself. But I was saying some things that I knew wasn't normal. It was just me staying with this child. Her dad was never really home. So I was like, her dad was working in the oil field, and it was just me and her younger brother. So I was like, something is wrong. She will go to church, she'll run away, she'll go to the altar or run around the altar. Or when we're going out, she'll run, leave you, run away. Then I was heavily pregnant, and you see she's running and you're chasing her with pregnancy. Now it wasn't that it is normal for children. Hers was just, she'll run and be laughing. You're calling her, she's not even answering you. It's not even like she can hear you. So many of those things, and of course the picky eating that goes with it, and the crying unnecessarily, the inability to be able to tell you what she wants. She's coming, she's dragging you, she's pointing. If you can't get it, she hits herself on the floor and begins the wailing and the tantrums. We go to the store, the tantrums are just too much. So these are all the things that we're going through. Then I think the icing on the cake, I was still having hope like every other mom. I wasn't even thinking towards autism. I was just like, okay, they say every kids develop differently. Oh, they'll tell you, you know what, your brother didn't talk early, so you don't have to worry yourself. So I was like, okay, maybe it's part of it. Only for us I traveled back home to Nigeria. And are you still there?
Yeah, I kind of came out in two places. Hold on.
Yes, I'm wondering. Anyway, I traveled back home. We had an emergency. Guys, I'm on the live. Go and sit down.
Can you go to the playground?
Go and sit. I'm coming. So we had an emergency, and I lost my parents-in-law. I needed to travel back home. Upon traveling, I had to leave her with a friend. And it was when I came back that my friend was like, something is really, really wrong with your daughter. You need to go and check her out. I think that was the prompting I needed. And I booked an appointment. It took us another 3 months. It took us another 3 months to be able to get a pediatric appointment. We went to see the pediatrician, and of course, my fear was confirmed. Your daughter has autism. She's on the spectrum. And just like every other mom, I broke down and I started crying there in the doctor's office. I was like, what did I do? You start thinking, what did you do? Of course, you ate well. What did you do that contributed to this? So I was crying then because she was tiptoeing. She was just tiptoeing everywhere, laughing at the doctor, all of those things. And it was just the classical signs. So we it was the pediatrician that opened my mind up to functional medicine, you know, having to look into supplements and the rest. He was like, you know what, don't quote me anywhere. But you know what, mothers have been able to help their children with supplements. Maybe you might need to explore that. And he said that, but ensure that you do everything, get into aggressive intervention before she turns 6. That was all I needed. That was what I held on to while leaving that office. He gave me some sites, some websites. Go read about this. Don't cry. This is not the time to cry. This is the time for solution. And him saying that really made me, I think he gave me courage. He gave me courage to really stand up and say, I'm going to fight for this girl. I'm going to fight till the last. I'm going to do all I can for her. And let us just say that I'll do everything I can. Then if my best is not good enough, then I'll look back and say I have done my best. So, and he said, you know what, do you want this child to be dependent on you forever, that when you're dying you're worried about who's going to take care of this child? I think that those two things, they stirred my soul. And it made me really say, I'm gonna fight. I'll go out and seek solution. So he was like, don't allow them give her Ritalin for now. You know, that's the first thing they want to put them on because of hyperactivity, so they can concentrate and all. So he was like, don't allow them give her Ritalin. Just go do your research, then anything you want to do, go from there, but try functional medicine. So that started our journey. And I started doing my research, started doing a lot of things. And I started seeing moms who were saying that they've been able to bring their children up off the spectrum. So it started making my hope go up. I was like, okay, if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 moms who have documented their journey, that means it's possible for me. It's possible for us. I'm not going to give up hope. So the first thing I was hearing from everybody was cut out dairy. Of course, we had a naturopath. We had gone to do another test with a naturopath because she was allergic. She was being allergic. She was breaking out in allergy. She will eat. It's one of the classical signs as well. She will eat, she will break out in allergies and all of those things. So she was breaking out in a lot of allergies all the time. And I didn't even know that. It was until I started researching that I got to understand that many of them don't digest food. So one of the things, you need to work on the gut because the gut needs to be healed. So it was one of the things that, you know, I was like, yes, this is it. This girl, she eats, most times she's constipated, you know, most times she breaks out in allergies and you don't even know the food that is causing it. So that took us to a naturopath. And it was the naturopath that was like, you know what, she's allergic to dairy, she's allergic to gluten. Then all of these moms were saying, take off gluten, take off dairy, take off processed food, do a lot of juicing. I was researching like a maniac. Like I took time out to research. The first thing I wanted to do was work on those allergies because we're using steroids. We're using so many steroids. There was nowhere we didn't buy from, both prescribed, would buy outside, they'll send it to us. After 2 weeks, it comes back again. So while doing all of those research, the first thing I did when I got home was I carried all the processed food. I cleaned out my fridge, cleaned it off of processed food because we never knew, we don't know that these things are a huge deal. I cleaned it out. I started reading labels. So her dairy, I replaced it with almond milk. We went plant-based as opposed to using dairy. Then we were doing a lot of juicing. So I also got to understand the essence of using cilantro leaves, you know, for detox. So I started, all of these moms were saying they did a lot of detox. So I was like, oh, okay. I went to research on cilantro. I started detoxing her just to help with the brain barrier. So for people who may be wondering what cilantro leaves can do or how it helps in detoxing heavy metals from the body. And one of the things you want to do with these kids is take off heavy metal, like take it off, because it is what is, it's like it's clogging the brain barrier, okay? And that is what basically, how do I explain it in layman's language? You know, when transmission is just like using a radio. When you're trying to send signal and there's a barrier between the receiver of the signal and the sender. So there's no processing happening. So that's why she couldn't process. She couldn't process. You tell her something, she's crying. You send her to apartment, she doesn't even know what to do. So it was really, really bad. And I got to understand that you needed to work on that, you know, the brain, the gut, the immune system. So how we found the molecule was on Facebook, scrolling on Facebook, saw someone talking about something, clicked just like you, checked it out, bought the juice because it was an antioxidant. And I saw that her allergies, what we used to have, the person was talking about helping with allergies. So I got that bottle and I saw that the allergies that we used to have that would come back in torrents because of her her digestive issues were not coming back after 2 weeks. Piqued my interest. So I was like, what is this? What is this? I now went to really read, and I started seeing people talking about transfer, the molecule and autism. So what I did was, there was a book on it. I ordered that book from Amazon, and I finished that book in that night. Like I couldn't even wait for it to come in. I bought a Kindle version. And I finished. Yes, that's the book. I finished that book that night. When I finished it, I was like, this is what we need. There's no harm in trying. I sat down, I called my husband. He was not around. I was like, I'm going to try this. And he was like, no, you don't. I was like, for now, I don't need you to discourage me. Just allow me, because you're not the one who is staying with this girl. I see the things that she does. It's so bad. She poo-poos, she uses her hand, you know. It was really bad. It was bad for us. I couldn't send her, like, communicate with her. Communication was nowhere, okay? So we started on the journey. Of course, with the detoxing, I was reading what other moms were doing, how I bought a lot of books that had to do with autism, what you needed to, from functional medicine, medical doctors. There's this book I wanted, let me get it, just a second.
Hi guys, thank you for coming in.
So
yeah,
this
hold
book,
on. Oh,
this
hold
book,
on.
I got this book, and
Okay.
I became a researcher. I would say that I'm a proxy doctor. So I started reading, you know. I bought so many other books. Start reading how you could help from the functional medicine perspective, how you could help children like this. I said, okay, you know what? This is all I need. Time to go to work. So I took out dairy, took out processed food, took out sugar. I cut out sugar, cold turkey. You know, I started, the food she was eating was greens. We'll do greens in different forms. So we can do kale with chicken. We can do spinach in the afternoon with fish. You know, everything I think for the first 6 months, we're not eating anything that was flour based, because even gluten-free flour, I was so scared of it. I didn't want it. So we continued, and 3 months later, when we started on this regimen of helping her gut, focusing on the gut, the immune system, and the brain, I think the first 2 months, I started noticing that she was focusing, which was huge for me. Like, she was sitting down at a place, really, really sitting. And we didn't have all of those things where, you know, hyperactivity, she's jumping around, she can't stay at a place, she's looking for something to do. Like, all of those things. I was like, okay, I think this thing is working. Then, of course, eye contact. Another thing I'll say I did was I was her speech therapist. So I used to read. I bought lots of storybooks. All of these things, I learned them from other moms. So I just tried what other people did. It just got me to understand that if you really follow instructions, you can get results. So I wasn't looking to modify anything. I just was following what other moms said they did. But the only difference was they didn't use transfer factors, maybe because they didn't know about it. And the other thing is they didn't use the molecule. And the other thing is, of course, when I got to understand that the molecule is closest to mother's breast milk, and I saw a lot of these women talking about using camel milk, to help their children, that was helping to reduce hyperactivity. I said then, and some were saying that they were buying breast milk from the breast milk bank. So it clicked to me. I was like, okay, they didn't know about this. I know about this. Then that means I have something that is very, very powerful. Let me use it. So we started on the journey. 3 months after, we got, I think the first time she made a sentence was 3 months later. She could follow 2-part sentences. Go upstairs, bring your panties. She would do that. Before you say, go upstairs, get me your panties, she's upstairs, she's crying. Okay. So we started on that. 3 months after, she started school. And we're getting good reports from school. But again, diet was a big thing. I was so strict on it. So strict.
Come closer to your screen. Come closer.